Hope you're all doing well. Hope you're having a good day. And our thanks to Dave Mustaine for joining us just a few minutes ago and giving us a lot of great updates there on both the coming Megadeth record, the current lineup of the band, some thoughts about the tour that is starting another round, kicking off April 9th in Vegas, the Metal Tour of the Year, which features Trivium and In Flames on most dates, and on all the dates, Lamb of God as well. So it's great catching up with Mustaine a little while ago. We talked to him on a bunch of great stuff and some great thoughts on a lot of different things. And now the other headlining act on the Metal Tour of the Year, and it's been a long time since I spoke to this guy. He is the lead singer of Lamb of God. It is Randy Blythe joining us right now. How you been, man?
Aloha, Edward. How are you?
I'm good. How's things in your world? You been doing okay?
Yeah, man, I'm good. I'm just chilling, getting ready to head out on tour. How about yourself? Everything's all good?
Yeah. We just hung up with Mustaine, and we spent some time with him talking about round 2 of the Metal Tour of the Year, kicking off April 9th in Vegas, and all the dates out there right now. From your perspective, Randy, how did the first leg go?
It's not really from my perspective. It's just fact. It was a complete success. It was, it was one of the, it was one of the only tours out at that time that didn't shut down due to COVID, because we had everything pretty tight. That was a year ago, I guess. Not quite a year ago. It was in September, so it seems like 3 years ago these days with time. But it went super well. It was super well attended. Everybody had a really good time, and we had a good time ourselves.
I was talking to Dave about this, like I said, just a few minutes ago, and from my perspective, looking at that bill, with whether it was Hatebreed or Trivium, In Flames, the various bands that are or have been on. To me, the cool thing about it is, and even between your band and Megadeth, there's a good cross-pollination there, meaning that I'm sure for all the bands, there were some fans in the building that might not necessarily have been there if just one or two of those bands was playing. Do you agree with that? Did you pick up on the fact that maybe some old school Megadeth fans that weren't totally down or have seen Lamb of God before got exposure to you guys, and then your fans who might be a bit younger had a chance to see Megadeth? And do you feel like it was that sort of vibe that some of that was happening on the road?
Sure, absolutely. And, Trivium, on the last leg, we had Trivium and Hatebreed. So Trivium, not that they're particularly young anymore, but they are a younger band than us and generally have a younger fan base. And then Hatebreed are about our age, but they draw a lot more from the hardcore world. So, it was a good mix of bands, and I enjoy that in a tour. I like a diverse bill where people, are exposed to things that they may not have been if they had made up the bill themselves, I'd love to do a tour where it's just like one metal band, one hip-hop band, one, bluegrass band, one goth band, some more like a European festival type style thing, but I don't know how that would sell in the States. So, but it's nice to have a variety of music.
Speaking of variety, I was clicking around the internet last night looking at some past interviews and things that you've done, some countdowns and lists and things like that. And I came across something, I think it was on one of the British websites, and it was the 10 songs that most impacted you. And the number 1 and 2 songs were things that nobody would expect the singer of Lamb of God to cite. One was Funky Town, and the other was, of all Kiss songs, I Was Made for Loving You. Can you explain those and how they had an impact on you, Randy?
Well, those are some of the earliest songs I really remember. Funky Town, that was during, of course, I'm a child of the 70s, so that was during the disco era, and that was a tune that was on the radio all the time. And I lived in a little tiny town in North Carolina, so you weren't going to hear anything other than what was on the radio. And then as far as like Kiss and I Was Made for Loving You. Like I really like that song. That was one of more Kiss's more radio friendly song, I suppose. It got a lot of play then, and I liked it. And every Halloween, there used to be like this little Halloween carnival in this little town where we grew up, and I would get my face painted, and I would always get it painted like Gene Simmons, you know, because I thought obviously he was the coolest. He was dark and spit fire and spit blood, and he was a demon and all that shit. So I thought that was the raddest. And then years later, which I thought was just hilarious, Gene did one of these like radio shows or whatever, where they play him a few seconds of a song or a band he hasn't heard, and they ask his opinion. And then they played him a Lamb of God song, and he was like, well, the music, they're obviously very talented. I like the song, but I'm not saying I'm a talented singer or anything. I'm not saying the greatest, but I cannot understand anything that guy is saying, and it's not my cup of tea. So I think that band would be great if they just didn't have that screaming guy. And I just loved it. I was like, this is hilarious, because I used to dress up at like this dude for Halloween when I was 7 years old or whatever. And there he is dissing my vocals. You know, it was awesome. So it gave me much more pleasure if he had said, I just love this vocalist. I just thought it was hilarious that Gene Simmons was dissing me. It was awesome.
I found it interesting that you growing up a huge Kiss fan and also being a child of the 70s myself, but a few years older than you, that I Was Made for Loving You was the death blow to Kiss. Like among Kiss fans,
Yes.
That's when they jumped the shark. That's when they went disco and pop and everything. And like I would expect the lead singer of Lamb of God to be like, God of Thunder, man, that was my intro, you know, something heavy like that.
But they didn't play God of Thunder on the radio when I was
Right,
6 years old. You understand?
True.
Like, so they had Funky Town and they had I Was Made for Loving You. Those are two of the earliest songs I remember hearing, you know.
I would love to hear Lamb of God covers of either of those songs, Randy. I would love to hear you cover a cover of Funky Town done heavy by Lamb of God would be awesome. You should take that to the band.
Sure, man. I've taken many people to Funky Town over the years, and we'll continue to do so.
Speaking of covers, Mustaine just told me minutes ago on the air that you guys covered "Wake Up Dead," and they guested on some of it, and then he swore that we had it, which we don't, to play. But what's the status of that? Tell me about that.
Dave spoke. Dave, I guess, let the cat out of the bag. So
he said it minutes ago. He just brought it up. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it's supposed to be playing tomorrow for everyone. I think, by the way. So management, I think, was just like, what do you guys think about you guys all get together and to help promote the tour, you guys do a song together? And we're like, sure, whatever. So there's a cover of Wake Up Dead, and it's every member of Megadeth and every member of Lamb of God is on it. So me and Dave, of course, split most of the vocals. There's not that many vocals on that song, period. But he and I split them, and my band, my dudes play the whole thing. Dave does a solo, takes one of the solos. Kiko takes a solo. And then Dirk and Lomenzo did gang vocals on the Wake Up Dead, You Die. They did, that stuff. So every member of Lamb of God and Megadeth is on this cover of Wake Up Dead that is supposedly coming out tomorrow, which I don't think Dave was supposed to mention, but he did. So thank you, Dave. Now we can just discuss this.
Yeah, he let a few cats out of the bag, I think, with me just a few minutes ago. He talked about Steve DiGiorgio playing bass on the album. We talked about Lomenzo, who I've known forever. It was really, Dave was in good spirits and excited clearly about this next leg of this tour, which why not? I mean, it's a great bill. It's exciting to have you guys back out there doing this again. You mentioned the pandemic and the lockdown. I know you guys did a streaming thing during that, and everybody handled that in different ways. But I'm also curious, Randy, because if my math is right, how long have you been sober? About 10 years now?
11, a little over
11 years. Congratulations on that. But my question to you is, I know a lot of musicians who have struggled with sobriety, and the pandemic and the lockdown was a real test to them. And some of them fell off and struggled with it and had problems. Others were able to maintain. How did you do related to your sobriety through all of that?
Man, I did just fine. I guess the pandemic, we're in 2022. I guess that kicked off in 2020. Time is so bizarre now. So I guess that kicked off in really February, March of 2020. And by that time I had already been sober 9 years. I was sober. I went to prison sober and got through that no problem. For me, the pandemic, staying sober wasn't a problem at all, because being sober is just a part of my life now. I know a lot of people. I know it did drive a lot of people out into relapse or whatever. And sadly, some of those people are no longer with us. But for me, it just I drank all the fun out of drinking, and did all the drugs. Like, they hold no appeal for me, because they aren't an escape for me at all anymore. They're just misery. So, I mean, everybody being in lockdown and in pandemic and all that shit wasn't fun, but I know from vast experience that me drinking or doing drugs is not going to make a bad situation any better or let me escape it. It's only going to make it worse. So it wasn't hard for me at all.
That being said, I remember a few years ago, there was a festival in Tennessee called Exit 111 that I hosted. And I brought you guys on stage, and I was watching you for a bit. And I saw you out there swigging from looked like a bottle of beer. And I was like, oh, fuck, I hope Randy's okay. Only to find out it's non-alcoholic beer that you drink. And correct me if I'm wrong, but don't you have your own version of that?
Yeah, Lamb of God did a non-alcoholic IPA with Brewdog. Is a brewery that was started in Scotland. They're like the biggest craft beer brewery in Europe, and they have pubs all over Europe. And they had a really good, tasty non-alcoholic beer that I tasted when I was up in the Highlands of Scotland. And I kept emailing these dudes like, when are you guys going to bring this to the States? Because I had never seen it distributed in the States. So eventually I got a hold of them and they're like, oh, we just opened a brew pub in Ohio, a couple of them with a brewery. So me and Willie stopped by the brew pub and met a lot of Brewdog people. And they're like, do you want to collaborate on a non-alcoholic beer? And we were like, yeah. So I know Hatebreed has done one now. But as far as I know, we were the first band ever to do a non-alcoholic beer collaboration with them, and it was called Ghost Walker, and it does quite well. So, I mean, a lot of people thought when we announced that, they were like, some people were mad. It was so funny, like, this is not metal, blah, 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 and this is never going to work. And then and this is, like, as if I had like come and like, taken a shit on their living room carpet or something. And it's like, look, we're just providing people with an option. And when it was released, it quickly became their number one, like, best-selling non-alcoholic beer and their top mail order beer, period, for a while. So it did really well, and still does. So, yeah, I mean, I don't drink non-alcoholic beer. Like, I don't chug like 12 of them a day or anything. And I generally will have, I might drink a little bit more on tour because it's a social thing, but it's nice to have that option if you are so inclined. It's not for everyone, not everybody who quits drinking should necessarily try a non-alcoholic beer because it might remind them a little too much of something they're missing. But for myself, it's never been a problem. And besides just loving to get drunk, I actually was a real kind of beer connoisseur. So I enjoy good beer. I don't drink like O'Doul's non-alcoholic. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So totally. Hey, you referenced a second ago being imprisoned, which of course is such a big part of your story of your life. You did an amazing book about it called Dark Days, about your wrongful imprisonment in the Czech Republic. Did I read that you're considering a second book? And if so, is it more about that or your story since that?
No, I'm working on the second book now. I mean, the contract is signed and I've already deposited the first advance check. So I've been working on that. And no, I said everything I had to say about prison in one book. You know, that was 500 pages. So that I wrote that just to lay that to rest. And if anybody had any questions about it, I'm like, look, I wrote a 500-page book about it. That'll answer all your questions and more. So no, the new book I'm working on is, I guess the theme of it could be described as perspective. And it's about different lessons I've learned from looking at other people in my life, you know, trying to broaden my perspective, learning from other people's experiences.
Have you been back to the Czech Republic since you were in prison there?
No.
Because I think I recall when you had written the book, and you were asked that question. I may have even asked it to you. You had said it didn't sound like you would rule it out. It sounds now like you would rule out going back there, or no.
I don't rule it out. But like it would have to be under the right circumstances. And I mean, I'm allowed to go there, you know. But it's like it would be unless things were worked out in advance with certain people, I think it would be rude to go back there, because if I went back there to play a show, it would be huge news. There's a family who's still missing a son there. So sure. I don't wish them to be any more upset than they already are. You know, it's they've suffered enough. So yeah. So if the circumstances were right and we had their blessing or whatever, you know, I wouldn't mind going and playing a show and then like donating the money to charity or something. But other than that, you know, Lamb of God really has no business going there if the circumstances are right, because I don't want to cause anyone any further emotional duress.
And last thing on music, it's been a couple years since the last record, self-titled record. Where beyond this cover of Wake Up Dead that you've done, where have you guys written? Have you been recording? Where are you at with the next record?
Lamb of God is always writing, always demoing stuff, and that's really all I got to say about that. I mean, we've only done one tour on the last record. It's kind of screwed up. Like, the record came out in June of 2020, I think, and it was delayed due to like shipping for pre-orders and all that stuff. It was supposed to come out earlier in the year. It came out and it was really well received. It came out, but I mean, it wasn't even not even 2 years old yet. And normally a touring cycle lasts at least 18 months, and we've done one tour due to COVID. So right now we're going to go and tour on this record some. So, I mean, we're always working on stuff. When it's when we're ready to release it or talk about it, we will, you know.
And how's the photography going? You've been shooting a lot still? Yeah.
I mean, not as much as I'd like, because I'm working on this book that's really consuming my time, really. But I have been doing a little shooting. I'm in Chicago right now. I'm going to go see Ministry and Melvins and COC. And so today got out a bit and did a little shooting. But I haven't been doing as much as I would like.
All right, man. Well, listen, I I appreciate the time. It's good catching up with you. It's been a bit. Metal Tour of the Year, of course, Megadeth and Lamb of God, Trivium, In Flames, kicking off April 9th, the next run in Vegas. Go to Lamb of God's website, Megadeth's website, any of the bands, or to the website Metal Tour of the Year for all the dates and all the information wherever you're listening. And I'll see you in Tulsa, Randy. My friend there is the promoter, and he's brought me out to host the show. So I look forward to seeing you guys in Tulsa on April 30th, BOK Center. That's a big arena. That should be a great one.
Cool. Tulsa, Oklahoma, man.
Yeah, which Mustaine just told me a second ago, which I never put this together in all my years of going to Tulsa, what Tulsa spells backwards.
Tulsa, T-U. Wait, hold on.
A slut.
A what? Oh,
a
a
slut.
I was like, a something. Oh, Jesus Christ.
That came from Mustaine, not me. Mustaine was in rare form before you called. He laid out all kinds of stuff.
I'm sure it sounds like it. You know, I'm sure there are people of that persuasion there, just as there are everywhere. But you know, the citizens of Tulsa that I've met have been fine, moral, upright, sexually chaste human beings.
Me as well. Wonderful people there. Absolutely. It's just funny that you brought that up to me. I never put that together. But that one's April 30th. All the dates, like I said, for wherever you're listening in the country are on those websites that I just mentioned. Say hi to the guys, and I look forward to seeing you in Tulsa, if not sooner, man. Thanks for the time.
See you there, Eddie.
All right, there he goes. Randy from Lamb of God checking in with us for a bit here on Trunk Nation on Volume. A lot of fun to visit with him. He's a great guy. I've done all those guys are in Lamb. I've done some stuff with them over the years. When there was the documentary on Randy's imprisonment, I went down to Virginia to one of their shows, and I did some interviews with them for a documentary piece for that film. And one time I gave Randy a ride. We went to the Big Four show at Yankee Stadium, and Randy was stuck at Yankee Stadium. I believe at that time he was still drinking. If I recall, I think he was. I'm pretty sure he was. And he was stuck there and needed a ride back into Manhattan. So I remember piling him in the back of my car and driving him back into New York City. I think Brian Slagle was with me that time too. We had a great time and a fun ride back into Manhattan from Yankee Stadium in the Bronx. So great dude, and all those guys in Lamb, really, really good people. So great tour as well. So Lamb of God, Megadeth, again, April 9th it kicks off, and you can go to the website for your date. And if you're in Tulsa, which we love, no offense whatsoever to the people of Tulsa. I'm sure the people in Tulsa know about that, but I'd leave it to Mustaine to give us that nugget today. All right, we'll come back after the break. And by the way, we found out that Mustaine also broke other news, maybe unintentionally, about that cover of Wake Up Dead, which Randy just clarified is coming out tomorrow. So that's why we don't have it yet. It wasn't even supposed to be revealed till tomorrow, but Dave Mustaine giving us a lot of great nuggets in his interview a little while ago today on Trunk Nation, and Randy just confirmed that.